Hello, welcome to the Analyst Inside Cricket with me, Simon Hughes.
And me, Simon Mann.
The third day here at Edgbaston was a day of extremes. 394 runs, 8 wickets. That sounds like a pretty good day, but it was either 100 or a duck if you're a batsman. Extraordinary sort of situation, really, with England losing their first 3 wickets for 25 overnight. And then obviously Root and Stokes going within 2 balls. And then a partnership of 303 between Smith and Harry Brook, and then England losing their last 5 wickets for 20. So an extraordinary day of extremes, which in the end has left England with just a 10% chance of winning, according to Betfair. India 63, the draw 29. And actually, although it's spitting with rain a little bit tonight, now, the forecast is pretty good for the next 2 days.
Yeah, the forecast is okay for Saturday. Some showers around on Sunday. And so what do India do? Well, we'll talk about that a bit later, but we should wrap up the day's play first up. I mean, look, 84 for 5, facing 587. England looked absolutely out of this game. There's absolutely no way in the world they could win the game. Suddenly at tea, they're 355 for 5. And you're thinking, well, what's going to happen here? They could even get around India's score and put some pressure on them, but then kind of like normal service and cricketing sense took over again. The new ball worked, and India got a really handy lead. I said to you, I think when England lost their 6th wicket, I said England need to be a bit careful here, otherwise they'll be looking at 500 in their second innings. I sent you a message, and actually that's kind of what it's looking like at the moment, isn't it? It's going to be a Saturday, and they're not the most thrilling days, are they, when one team is so far ahead of the other and they're just looking to build a huge score. There aren't too many alarms ahead for India. They could lose a few wickets but still build a really sizable score. I suppose the only way England can get back in the match is a dramatic collapse, isn't it? And it's got to be like a 6 for 50 sort of collapse, or a 6 for 120 type of collapse.
Which
really.
You sort of feel that England don't quite have the bowling attack to achieve.
It doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like that. Just seeing the way they bowled tonight, we've just seen Siraj and Deep bowl really well with a new ball, and they looked threatening. I mean, England didn't give it away. They were bowled out, weren't they? Chris Wokes had a big drive outside the off stump. He nicked it to slip, but the rest were bowled out by some really good new ball bowling by Siraj and Deep, and England just couldn't find that intensity when they came out to bowl. The lights were on, it was overcast. I mean, it is now just drizzling here at Edgbaston. So you're thinking, theory, quite good bowling conditions, but they just could not really get much going. They had the one wicket, and that was Jaiswal LBW. But apart from that, I don't know whether that was the factor there. They 150 overs in the field, and then basically they had 90 overs of batting, and then out they go again. And also it's that thought as well, their leads 180. Cricket's such a psychological game. And India would have felt that, this is our hour rather than England's hour. Do you understand what I mean by that? England couldn't get that intensity going because India were on top of them.
And of course, often that happens, doesn't it? Clearly, the Indian fans behind us are very happy about the day in the end, because you can hear them in the background heading off home. But what often happens at the end of innings, if you lose your wickets quickly, that kind of demoralises you, and then you don't bowl with quite the same venom. Whereas if your tail wag and you get, 100 runs of the last couple of wickets, then the bowlers come out, they've probably played quite well with the bat, and they come out with renewed purpose and optimism. But that didn't happen today. I obviously said yesterday that the pitch was too flat. That argument was slightly blown out of the water by 2 early wickets. Root, a bit unlucky, caught down the leg side, and then Stokes out first ball.
That was a snorter, that delivery.
It was a really good bit of bowling by Mohammad Siraj, actually, who had a lot of energy and sort of bustling to the wicket, and he's a tremendous sort of trier, isn't he? Really, he keeps going. But then I thought my argument that the pitch was too flat was sort of semi-justified by the next 3.5 to 4 hours, where no wickets fell and England scored 300 for Smith and Harry Brook playing beautifully. Smith's first ball out on the hat trick drove it back past the bowler for 4, and just never looked in any trouble. He played him a classic innings, actually, didn't he? I mean, there was a moment when they tried the bouncer tactics, and he thought with 5 men on the boundary he's going to hole out again like he did at Headingley, but he just about got away with it, and they gave up that tactic, and no other strategy against him looked as if they were going to prize him from the crease or stem the flow. It was a fantastic, a majestic innings. He outscored Harry Brook. He was at one point threatening the famous 76 ball 100.
Or is it 76 balls?
Or is it 100? Or is it 76 ball 100? Simon Wilde, our colleague in the press box, has written a book which is out in the next couple of weeks, which says that Gilbert Jessop's infamous 76 ball 100 could actually be only 71 or 72.
No, it's 72 to 74. That's what Simon's nailed it down to. But he's not quite sure because there aren't those sort of records kept. They're not the records that we have now. There's obviously no TV or radio coverage you can go back and listen to each ball or anything like that. But he pieced together reports and scorecards and all sorts of things and worked out that it must be either between 72 and 74 balls.
Which, of course, is the fastest 100 ever made by an England player.
Yeah, but he says it's definitely not 76 balls. So the point being really that whoever's going to break that record has got to do it in 71 balls to be absolutely definitively the new record holder. I mean, there was a moment today when you thought, this is going to be about 74, 75 ball 100 from Jamie Smith. And there's going to be all sorts of debate about whether he's broken the record or not. You know, we've been talking about it so often recently, or since the Bazball era.
Can you change records, actually?
Well,
can you adjust them if new evidence comes to light?
I actually asked Simon about this. I said, are you going to lobby now? What happens? Are you going to lobby to get the record changed? And he said, well, I'm going to have a conversation with someone who's quite high up in the statistics of the official sort of stats people and see where it goes. I think we're kind of in that early stage at the moment. That's obviously great publicity.
Well, yes, because I was actually sat next to him in the press box when Smith was sort of approaching his 100, and he got to sort of 90 odd of about 67 or 68 balls, and he had a couple of balls to hit 10 runs, and in the end he poked a few singles and then got there on 80 balls. So Simon was quite relieved, and he said actually perfect, because if it's just close, it's better publicity for my book, whereas if he'd actually overtaken it, it would rather ruin his book.
Well, such good publicity because we're talking about it now, and we talked about it on Test Match Special earlier, and I think they talked about it on Sky as well, because look, it's been threatened a few times, hasn't it, recently, by the way England play. Johnny Bairstow got closest in that Test match at Trent Bridge, when he's just, I think, was it 1 or 2 balls slower than Jessop's official 76 ball 100. But I mean, it was stunning cricket from Smith today. I felt a bit sorry for him actually, because when England lost their last wicket, he had to run off and get his wicket-keeping pads on, paraphernalia on, so he couldn't actually soak in the applause of the crowd. Okay, he would have done for 100, 150, but it's nice to walk off with everyone, the whole stadium rising to you. As it was Mohammad Siraj who walked off holding the ball up, and he took the applause. There's Jamie Smith just having to sprint off the pitch and up the dressing room steps to get his kit on.
But at least he's now the highest scorer by an England wicket-keeper.
And number 7 as well.
And number 7, right, because Alex Stewart held the record for, I think he got 173 as an England wicket-keeper. So that's, of course, Jamie Smith's first coach or first director of cricket at Surrey, Alex Stewart. So he overtook him, 180. Obviously no wicket-keeper for England has ever scored a double. And he could have got a double today, couldn't he? But the tail let him down.
Yeah, 184. I mean, he hit 2 just before the end of the innings, 2 utterly sublime shots. That 6 he hit down the ground in the final over that he faced was just about the best shot he played all day, actually. I know you got that licence, sort of low skimmer out towards long on, and just the power and the timing in it. Look, he hit a 6 onto that roof just there last season against
West Indies, I think, wasn't it?
West Indies, on this ground. Some of his shot making today was fantastic.
He's just a special talent, isn't he? Outstanding. I mean, there are shades of Kevin Peterson in some of his shots, I thought. He's very sort of grandiose in the way. I mean, full flow of the bat, almost like a bit of a golf swing, actually, sometimes when he hits it back over the bowler's head. And those pull shots as well were as good as anything that Shubman Gill produced the day before, but he puts them into the stand as well. Yeah,
I mean, one of the benefits of playing that pull shot on this pitch was that it was a bit more placid. Headingley was a bit more bounce, and that's what undid him, because he got that high bouncer from Prasad Krishna that he hit out towards deep back with square leg or deep square leg at Headingley. He just didn't quite have enough on it just before the new ball, and the boundaries seemed quite short here as well, 65 metres all the way around, and it was just no trouble at all. Bang over the rope when Prasad Krishna did drop it in short, but the ball didn't quite get up enough. There wasn't enough pace to really threaten him and get the sort of top edge nature. It just coming out of the middle of the bat. he was nearly caught a square leg in that sequence of attacking strokes. Karen Nye, perhaps a taller fielder, might have got there, but generally speaking, it was just wonderful, clean hitting. And not many people put. I mean, Harry Brook not quite in the shade, but he was the sort of.
Well, he outscored him quite considerably.
Not
didn't
many people do that to Harry Brook.
No,
yeah.
and Harry Brook was almost sort of content to play in his slipstream a little bit for a while. I mean, Brook obviously played a completely different innings today compared to yesterday, where he was a bit frenetic and trying to run down the wicket against the new ball and so on. But today he just played his more orthodox game actually, and didn't try anything too extravagant, and just almost picked the runs off at will. I just couldn't see how the Indians were going to get them out. So they notched up all these sort of partnership potential records. Eventually 303 the partnership, and no wickets at all in between lunch and tea. The bowlers must have been absolutely tearing their hair out.
Well, I sat outside for a bit. I was just watching the game in that afternoon session, and just sort of kind of listening and just observing India's body language. There was a sort of an air of just sort of
resignation.
Yeah, resignation. There wasn't much chat. Sometimes you hear teams in the field. Come on, keep going. There was none of that, and it's not easy sometimes on a windy day to stay together as a team in the field. But it just seemed really flat. And it was a bit like watching yesterday afternoon's cricket, where Shubman Gill was dominating. Where is a wicket going to come from? And you thought, well, this partnership is 300 or is moving towards 300. Could be 400, 500. It was kind of that. It had that sort of feel about it. And when the wicket fell, it was a huge surprise. Although it was a really good ball.
Well, yes, and it just shows, because that was with the second new ball, and it just shows that you need the second new ball here, or the new ball, to do much on this pitch. It's still very placid. It's very benign. England didn't make much of it when they bowled tonight, apart from that one wicket. But when the second new ball was taken, England folded really quite quickly, which is a real shame actually, because I was looking forward to seeing if Jamie Smith could get to his 200. Anyway, 184 not out. It's not a bad thing to take home with you tonight.
Yeah, you take that, wouldn't you? I mean, 100 before lunch as well.
Yes.
So he didn't start.
Something like the 20th player to score 100 in a session in Test cricket.
Yeah.
It's been quite a lot actually, and a lot recently, of course.
Yeah. How many have done it when they haven't been at the crease at the start of the day's play, or at least there'll be another 2 wickets to fall before they make their entrance? I mean, if you said to Jamie Smith at 2 minutes to 11 this morning, you were going to score 100 before lunch, I thought you looked at you and said, really? I'm even going to be in before lunch. We've got Harry Brook and Joe Root out there.
It was 77 for 3 at the start of play, and by lunch it was 249 for 5. So they'd scored
172, is it?
172 in a session.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, I was there in Rawalpindi when at the first day of that, not the last Pakistan series, but the one before, and that felt like I've never seen cricket like this before. You don't score 170 runs in a session of the first day of a test match, especially in somewhere like Pakistan, where you think the wickets are probably quite slow and the bowling's going to be a bit testing, and you're just feeling your way into the series. And that just felt like this is just absurd cricket. And they did it from 5 down, from 80 odd for 5 to then rattle off another 165 runs or whatever it was by lunchtime. I mean, I think I spoke to a few people who were here yesterday, England supporters, and they felt the day it was tough going. It was tough watching, really. Gill was dominating. There didn't seem to be much of a contest out there.
Paying homage to bat.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and then but for the England fans who were there today in that morning session, I mean, that was the breathtaking cricket of the day, wasn't it? And then it became a bit more normal, if you like, especially in that afternoon, because England sat in a bit in the afternoon. They were forced to sit in by India's change of tactics, and I thought that was good. They must have talked about it at lunchtime, and that tactic was bowling at fifth stump, so a little bit outside off stump with a strong offside field, and go on, have a go at it. And they were trying to have a go at it, and they weren't always succeeding. There was a few going past the outside edge, a few going via the edge, actually, just dropping short of pants, a few going past the stumps. And India bowled with a lot more discipline. They thought about it, and they came out and bowled well in that afternoon session, even though they got no rewards. And then, lo and behold, the new ball, it's often worth 1, isn't it? But it was worth 5.
We were chatting in the press box today a little bit, actually, about why England are able to score at this rate so consistently. They make it look easy, don't they? Yeah. Scoring at 5 and over. And I suppose it's a combination of very flat pitches at the moment, very easy pace. There's no uneven bounce. At Headingley, there's a bit more in it for the bowlers, but it still came onto the bat beautifully. You could drive on the up. Here, absolutely no movement at all, no uneven bounce, no sideways movement at all. Big bats, I think, help the players now. Short boundaries, fast outfields, beautifully manicured outfields. I think also just the repertoire they have. When the bowling kind of spin comes on or something, and they've got so many more shots to open the field up. Yeah. So it's very hard to set a field to anyone now, isn't it?
Also, teams are actually. I mean, when the spinners come on, the teams are quite defensive. There are lots of gaps, aren't there? So you can just tick it over,
around,
a bit like a bit like a one-day international. Sometimes I think there was one point where Jadeja was bowling, and I thought this is a one-day field. He had 4 outside the ring, four inside, and 1 catcher. So that was a field, and it was you see in one day, don't you? Bang, long on, bang, long off, knock it into the onside into a gap, and that was what it was. And you could score at 4 and over without barely even trying, and then you get the reverse sweeps out as well. It's a bit of a nightmare. There's not much spin, so it's tricky for the fielding side. So that afternoon session when England were so dominant, so in control. It was a reversion to the previous day when Gill was in control.
Yeah, I went up and sat actually in that stand up behind us there, that black stand there, with a few punters. They come from all over the place, when you come to Birmingham. It's not just locals from Brum. I was with Lancastrians, Yorkshiremen, Irish people, Scots, obviously some Indians who come over. It's a fantastic atmosphere. It's a great place to watch, as long as you don't mind the sort of constant hubbub and a few bits of music and drums and stuff.
Well, the point is, isn't it? When you come to Edgbaston, you plan where you sit. If you don't,
you might not be able to though. Okay. If your ticket is sort of allocated in a certain place.
Well, I think people know what they're going to get in Hollis Stand, don't they? And if you want that, you sit in Hollis Stand. If you don't want that, you try to sit elsewhere.
So I actually went to the museum today, just briefly, a slight detour for a second. I went to the museum today because I was quite interested in Eric Holly's. Holly's stand is behind us there. It's the sort of spiritual support base of English cricket, isn't it? And they make a lot of noise there. Eric Hollis was, of course, a Warwickshire player, played for England, bowled Bradman out famously second ball on his last test for a duck. The delivery has been Eric Holly's. There's a sculpture in the museum which shows Holly's in the process of bowling that googly, but the ball has been lost, sadly. So that's not in the museum.
That would be worth quite a lot, wouldn't it?
Well, exactly.
The ball that bowled out Bradman in his last Test match,
to keep his average at 99.94. That would be quite.
That would be a collector's item.
But anyway, it's disappeared, sadly. And Holly's played for a long time. I think for about 20 years for Warwickshire. All his life, one county, 2,200 wickets. A leg spinner, and nice actually. 20 years ago, roughly, this stand was rebuilt and named after him, so it's good.
I wonder what you'd make of the Holly's stand.
I bet he'd love it. I bet he'd absolutely love it, because he was quite a sort of understated guy. But I'm sure he'd love the idea that his name is sort of all around the place and is one of the favourite places for English fans to go. Right, well, listen, we'll take a quick break, and afterwards, I think we'll have our regular exchange on what India should do tomorrow.
Yeah.
So this is our Betfair exchange where we discuss something which perhaps we don't agree about. What do India do tomorrow? What sort of target do they set England? I think they should get another... they should set England 450. So get another, 200 runs. The lead now is...
in the 240s, isn't it?
Yes, it's about 240. So another couple of hundred. So 100 each session. Declare at tea, 450 to win, and I think that will be a really interesting game. Obviously, the odds will be in India's favour, but I think that will be I think you've got to sort of tease England a little bit, and of course, 450 is the most that a team has ever won to successfully win a Test match. So you should have a safety valve there, but you don't agree, do you?
No, I don't. I think they should get 520, 530, and bat with about an hour till the close tomorrow. I know there's the only thing is I would check on the weather forecast for Sunday, constantly check just to see is there going to be any rain, how much there's going to be. And you can't be always precise about where the rain's going to fall at what time for how long, but I think you really want to kind of go this England side. I think you do with 450 a bit, but I think I don't know, is that chaseable? Look, they might win either way, but I would go more because
put the game out of reach.
Well, but also force England, out of their comfort. Are you going to play for a draw? Are you really going to try to chase 520, 530? Or are you going to play for a draw for the first time? This would be the first time that England, this Stokes McCullum era would be in a situation where a draw is a viable option on the final day. I thought it was going to happen at Headingley. I thought because Chubman Gill said we want to set them 4:30, something like that. And that would have been a bit late, a bit later in the day, and fewer overs to bowl. You're saying give them 4 sessions to get 450, and look, you might, that might work. You might be right. That would, bring England out, draw them out. But also, I don't. When you control a Test match like this, I don't think you don't want to lose it. I'm not saying England would win, but you don't want to lose it either. Look, India would probably win either way, whether it was 520 in, 6. A day in 1 hour, or 450 in 4 sessions. They probably would, but I just think you want to stretch it out a bit more for England. Go on, if you really want to have a go at this, you go on, you have a go. Good luck with that. Good luck chasing 520. That's what I would do anyway.
Well, the highest ever successful run chasing Test cricket is 418, so even 430 would be breaking records if England managed to get there, if they managed to bowl India out. I mean, will England be able to bowl India out? Their bowlers don't look as potent as India's, do they? No. Mohammad Siraj, Akashdeep, I thought they both bowled really well today. They kept going, even in that sort of demoralising period where Smith and Brook were just knocking it around casually and playing it with their COCK. I mean, just absolutely easing the ball around. But actually, when the time came to make inroads with the second new ball, they were both really incisive and busy. Of course, Akashdeep, I think he reminds me a little bit of Mohammad Shami, actually, in the way that he sort of bustles to the crease and bowls with that kind of lively kind of projection of the ball, just slightly full of a length, trying to get a bit of movement either way, lovely seam position, etc., a little bit of outswing. So they both did really well, and I think they'll cause problems for England in the second innings. I don't think that England's bowlers, Wokes looked a little bit sort of tired tonight. Cast looks as if he's struggling. I thought Josh Tongue bowled okay, but I think they're going to need a change of the guard by the next Test. Do you agree?
I do, and I think that will happen as well. I mean, it seems obvious that Jofra Archer's going to play. What else they do? Let's see what else they do. But they might need to freshen things up.
Atkinson.
Well, if he's fit, that's the thing. Is he fit? Do we know whether he's fit? They'll announce the squad at the end of the game. Jamie Overton's in the squad. So in that sense, he's next in line to play as well. So we might see Jamie Overton at Lord's. I think Shoaib Bashir is going to be bowling a lot tomorrow. I can see that.
A few more carom balls, maybe.
Yeah, well, he took a wicket with a carom ball last night. The stumping. He said he's been working for a long time on it, and he said it was just about having the confidence to bowl it in a match. I spoke to him this morning, did an interview with him for the BBC, and he also said
he's got big fingers, hasn't he? Big hands that can manipulate the ball a bit more effectively than some.
Yeah. Also, as well. That's an obvious thing. He's actually quite tall as well.
Very tall.
I was struck how tall he was, and that's what England see in him for Australia, don't they? That he's going to get extra bounce as a tall spinner, and that's what they're banking on. I know that there's a lot of chat and comment around and about that. Is he really the answer? The question you pose then is, if not him, then who? Who could replace him? Some people are saying, well, Jacob Bethell could fulfil that role. I've seen all sorts of suggestions. Does Ben Stokes drop down the order a bit? Does Jacob Bethell slot in?
I thought Stokes should have bowled tonight, actually. I thought it was wrong. He brought Cast back for a couple of overs at the end, from the far end, and he hadn't bowled all that well from this end. I thought Stokes should have bowled. I mean, he has consistently looked England's most dangerous bowler. Jack Carson. That's a bit of a left field suggestion.
But the thing is, though,
he's a really talented cricketer.
But they've gone so long with Bashir. Are they going to just suddenly?
They can't.
Switch,
No, they won't. I'm not saying they will, but I think they should definitely look at him. Maybe have him in the squad or something, because he's so talented. John Simpson, his captain at Sussex, said to me last week, Jack Carson's the best spinner in England. Right. He said, and he can bat as well, and he can catch. He's a really good slip fielder. So I think they've got to sort of keep their options open a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
I like the way, but I thought Bashir. I've been quite sort of relatively harsh on him. I think over the first couple of tests, but I think I saw some improvement in this game with a willingness to toss the ball up a bit more, to try a slightly more aggressive line outside off stump. And his control was reasonable, and obviously he's developing his other deliveries. I thought he's slowly improving.
One thing I said to him this morning, do you think it'll spin at the back end of the game? He said, I hope so. But actually, if you think about it, England batting last, you actually don't really want it to spin, do you? I mean, he wants it to spin so he can take some wickets tomorrow. So he's got an important role tomorrow. Can he get something out of this surface against this very talented Indian batting lineup? So, bowling to Shubman Gill is pretty difficult, mind you. I mean, he's the Pope of Catholic, you can see that, everyone can see that. So yeah, quite a big day for him tomorrow on a fourth day pitch. It's just a bit of grip there, but not a huge amount. And I think England will be hoping it really doesn't spin on the fifth day. It's going to be cooler, isn't it? I think that's the thing. It's going to be cooler, not great conditions necessary for drying the pitch out more, and there might be a bit of cloud cover, a bit of rain around on Sunday.
So what are the predictions? Well, at the start of play, as I said, England, the win percentage was 5. Well, actually, when England were 84 for 5, the win percentage was England 5%, India 79.
I'm amazed it was as high as 5.
Yeah,
really.
I know, really.
You'd actually think no chance, wouldn't you? How can you win a game from 84 for 5 when the other opposition got 5-8-7?
But now, the state of the game with India 64 for 1 in the second innings with a lead of 244, England have a 10% chance of winning, India 63, the draw 29. And if you want to back England, good luck to you. You can get on Betfair an odd of 7-1. So might be a bit of a risk, but you never know.
Right.
You never know.
This is a fantastic opportunity for India to level the series. They got no Jasprit Bumrah. They came into this match thinking, we better not lose it. Want to go to Lords? We don't want to go to Lords 2-0 down when Bumrah comes back. People saying, Bumrah's got to play. A lot of the Indian pundits are saying Bumrah must play because if we're 2-0 down at Lords, it's series over. What an opportunity they have to make it 1-1. They've got a great chance over the next couple of days. You've identified it. New ball. There's going to be some threat out there. If you can nip a couple out with a new ball, what do England do? Do they still keep on playing their attacking shots? That gives you a chance. Magnificent opportunity for India, as long as we can get enough overs in, as long as the weather holds.
The weather will be fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. Okay, well that's it for today. Thank you to Betfair for supporting this podcast, and don't forget you must be over 18 to bet, and please gamble responsibly. And those odds were correct at the time of recording, which is just after 7:15 tonight. We'll be back tomorrow, won't we?
We will indeed. Yeah, fascinating fourth day, but probably a far more interesting fifth day. I mean, sometimes when a team is just sort of batting to build a lead, it's not the most compelling cricket, unless England can get some wickets, of course. Thanks very much for listening. Goodbye for now.